individualized achievement test is called the Peabody Individualized Achievement Test. That will measure the child's actual achievement. And an individualized intellectual exam will be the WIPSE, which is the Wechsler test for preschool children. The Peabody Individualized Achievement Test, almost anyone can give who has been trained, a classroom teacher, but your intellectual examination will have to be given by a licensed psychological examiner. Now in Missouri, that can be a school counselor. So if you at Head Start have access to an elementary or high school counselor, they will be a licensed psychological examiner. You'll also need to look at speech, communication skills. You'll need to look at adaptive behavior. How does that child handle themselves in the environment? And then you'll also want to look at related services, occupational therapy and physical therapy, which the child may or may not need. The federal government requires that the child who has a suspected disability be evaluated with multiple criteria. So remember that. One test alone would not qualify a child for special education services. There is one exception for that, and that is speech. Sometimes we have children that qualify under speech, that's articulation, that they are not reaching goals with saying words. That's what articulation is. They say L's and W's, they leave out R's, they leave off initial sounds. And I'm sure you all already have children who are receiving speech services. They would not have to have an intellectual exam for articulation services. But any other disability will require a full battery or full scale evaluation. One of the questions you asked was, is there any information that you cannot share with parents? Absolutely not. This needs to be upfront, honest, and parents need to be actively involved. Don't write anything that you don't want a parent to see, and please be honest with the parent, because if the child does have a disability, then you as the educator and the family have to have an amazing rapport. They need to trust you and you need to trust them. So early on, if the child does have a disability, establish that good relationship with the parent. You're going to need them and they're going to need you. One of the questions asked, what rights do parents have when they disagree with an IEP? Well, they have every right in the world. In fact, there's a document that you must give to the parents at the end of each conference if the child does have a disability that says your rights under the law. You can also find that on the Missouri educational website. It's about 52 pages, so it's a lot of fun to download. Most parents don't read it. It is available in multiple languages. But the parents have every right in the world, and let's be honest, they should. This is their child, and they want what's best for their child. And I truly believe that. And I think a lot of times in our minds as educators, we think that we know what's best for the child. And you know what? We may educationally, but we're not just talking about the education of a child. We're talking about the whole child. So we need to honor that home, and we need to honor the parents. Another thing that the law requires is that if you have done an evaluation of the child and you believe that perhaps the parents won't understand the evaluation, then under the law you are required to provide someone who can explain the evaluation results to the parents in language that they can understand. Lots of times that's just the child's teacher, because again, you have that trust and rapport. But you need to be honest and upfront. Parents should see every single test result, and they should absolutely understand what that result means. Now, when you get to the IEP and the parents disagree, then that's where you have to reach what we call a consensus. And on the IEP page, everyone has to check. They agree or they disagree. So it's a team decision. I will say in 38 years, I think maybe one time have I had someone check disagree, and it wasn't the parent. So we need to be on board and we need to be a team, because we need to do what is best for that child, educationally, every way. So we need to have a team experience where the parent is working in the home and we are working in the school. And the best way to do that, folks, is to be honest as you possibly can. The other thing that you need to be sure is that the parent understands that they can call you and ask questions. I also want to say this about the individualized educational plan. While it is typically drawn up for a year, it is a living document. So if someone believes that IEP needs to be changed, you convene the IEP team and you make the needed changes. Understand, it is a legal document. So just because I want to up someone's speech services from 60 minutes to 90, nobody has that power, not even the speech therapist. If someone believes the child needs more services or less services, then you have to convene an IEP meeting, and then the team decides if the services need to be changed. So the parent is actively involved. Now, let's say that a parent cannot attend a meeting. You have to send 3 notices, and the parent has 3 opportunities to attend. The other thing is, if you know that the parent works every day, please don't schedule the IEP meeting for 1 o'clock in the afternoon on a working day. That shows a total lack of respect for that parent. A lot of our parents have to take off work. That means they lose money, and they don't really like to do that, and I don't like to do that either. So when you're getting ready to schedule the IEP meeting, it's really easy. You pick up the phone and say, hey, we need to meet. When are you available to meet? And then we need to make every effort to meet with the parent when they can meet. Now that doesn't mean that you need to meet at 10 o'clock at night. That's not what I'm saying. But this needs to be where everyone can kind of meet together and discuss what's best for the child. You can also meet over the phone. You can do a conference call. So if you have a phone system that allows for a conference call, you can do that. If you have children who are living in a situation where their parents are divorced and both parents make educational decisions in that divorce decree, you may have to have both parents sign off on the IEP. So again, we're in a legal society. So if one parent can sign, great. If it takes both, then one parent may have to be at the conference via phone. So those are things you want to check out. One of the questions says, what is the most common type of IEP? And I'm going to say speech, because in early childhood education we see a lot of that. Other than that, that's kind of up for grabs. The IEP is individualized for each child, so we're not going to see any type of IEP any more than any others. Now, that being said, in the public schools, it's going to be specific learning disability, but your children will not be diagnosed as specific learning disability, because that typically comes after reading. One of the questions relating to the IEP is, how early can an IEP be developed? Typically age 3, but it could perhaps be from 0 to 3 under the First Steps program, and that's why I recommend that you look at that document, especially if a child is born with a congenital medical issue, or perhaps the child is born with Down syndrome. We would know that at birth, and you would want those services immediately, like within days of the child getting released from the hospital, to provide services. That's where First Steps comes in. It's required in the state of Missouri. All counties have it. So you would want to recommend, if someone comes to you and says, how soon can my child get educational services, you're going to want to refer them to the First Steps program. Hopes this answers your questions about working with families. Honesty, upfront, and there's no information that you cannot share. Thank you.